Welcome to the Branded Impact Podcast. On this show, we go beyond surface level branding, honest conversations with industry leaders, behind the scenes of aligned brand building, and actionable insights to help you elevate your presence. I'm your host, Jocelyn Espejo, aka Joe. Hit subscribe and join me each week for the Branded Impact Podcast. Welcome back to the Branded Impact Podcast, where we spotlight the bold, brilliant women behind transformative brands. Today's guest is Dr. Carrie Rose, co-founder of Ofcourse, a best-selling author and course creation strategist who's helped over 30,000 students with her brain-based learning method. We talk about what really drives course completion, how branding helped her step into her next level self, and why transformation, not trends, should be the foundation of your brand. So let's dive in. First, I want to start with saying thank you so much for being here. And I want to start with the story behind your brand. So can you take us back to who you were before you became Dr. Carrie and what led you to do the work you're doing today?
Yes, thank you, Joe. It's so nice to be here and to have this conversation with you. I knew when we first met that I'm like, oh, I definitely want to do this with Joe. Everything stems from, if you can put the pieces looking back, right? Like you can always put the pieces together looking back on your life, and everything stems from my childhood. I was dyslexic as a child. I'm still dyslexic, but I also had selective mutism for about 6 years of my life. So from 4 till 10, I barely spoke. And you combine those two together, I couldn't learn to read like normal students. I just didn't have the kind of like innate abilities that others had. I had different abilities, right? And so I walked into 5th grade not knowing how to read. And I had one teacher, Mrs. D. Taylor, take me from that to the highest standardized test score that school had seen in 1 year's time. And what I learned from Mrs. Taylor is the power of impact that we get to create with another human being when we both care and know the right strategies. And so I found myself as an adult working in public education. I was there for about 10 years and primarily working with students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. So they may go home on a Friday and you're not sure if they're getting fed till Monday morning, right? It's, I always say if you want to do mission work, you can start in the United States. There's plenty of places. And so I really tried to be Mrs. Taylor with these kids. Like, how can we make as many gains as we can so we can really impact their lives? And I did that over and over again, becoming really obsessed with research-based strategies. And at some point I decided to get my doctorate. I thought I'd work in education policy and become like a researcher or something. And I went to the University of Central Florida, got my doctorate, wrote my dissertation on professional development, and kind of found in the process that that wasn't what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure where the road was. But I knew that I wanted to impact more people than I could in just one classroom, right? Like I loved the work that I did with children, but I was also like, it's time for more. And what does that look like? And in walk 3 internet marketers to a world of beer. And I'm sure there is a good SEO joke in there somewhere, but they introduced me to online marketing, affiliate marketing, a lot of words that I hadn't really heard before. And I learned about what they were doing through online courses. And I started to get into these courses and find out that some of what was happening inside of these programs was like walking into the worst classroom on the worst day. I think there's like elements of we tend to teach how we've been taught or we teach how we learn, but either way, some of those examples are not like the best or the most inclusive. And so I decided to change that. So I created a process based on over 500 research studies on how the human brain connects to content. And because of that process, we've been able to get clients up to 97% completion rates when the industry average is 3 to 5%. So a world of difference between what's normal and what's possible.
Oh my goodness, so much that you just unpacked in I think like 30 seconds. So I think that is amazing how the impact of one teacher though changed your entire world. And then now that has bred this desire to be able to increase your impact on other people. So I think that's phenomenal. So I want to take it back and we're going to peel through some of this because you hit on some of this is now so second nature to you that you just kind of rolled it off. So let's kind of start with the from public education to entrepreneurship and how now you're helping thousands through your course creation strategies. So I guess the turning point when you were like, you kind of touched on it, but I want you to take a deeper dive.
Yeah.
When you had that turning point, like when you said, I wanted to make and build something different, because that's not everyone's desire. A lot of people want to make an impact. And I think that's where the heart of a lot of people who want to be teachers are.
Right. Of course.
They had an impactful teacher. They want to be able to do the same, but you had a vision to take it bigger. So do you remember what that turning point was for you, or what gave you the courage to take that step into doing something more impactful?
So it wasn't all one step at once. right? And I think that's part of it, like I wanted to do something more and then different things happen along the way, right?
Okay.
So at first, when I quit my job after going to a Tony Robbins event, so let's pack that up there, right? Like I went to a Tony Robbins event, walked through fire, went through the whole get rid of your limiting beliefs thing and decided I'm never going back to that old life again. And what's the new one look like, right? And so you go to a transformational event like that and it gets you on a soul level, you're going to have a massive change, but you're not sure what it is, right? And so for me, I was like, okay, entrepreneurship, not doing this other thing anymore. Boom. I got back, and then like maybe 2 months to the date that my resignation was on the desk of my principal. Right. So like I was like, okay, and we're done here. Like that's no longer, I can't deciding. And it basically comes from the Latin to cut off. Right. So I
Right.
decided, so I cut off the old life resignation letter. And so then I was left kind of trying to figure out what it was that I was doing, and I was looking inside of these programs. I'm like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And in the meantime, I'm teaming up with like another consultancy. And this consultant she was doing customer service and customer success. And so I was helping her with that. And she said, I don't know how to make an online course. I'll talk to you on Monday. Click. That's our conversation on Friday. And I'm like, wait, I know how to do that. Process builds in one weekend. So, I mean, that kind of sped up the whole thing, showed her that. And then I'm still working with her, but I'm also teaching other people how to do it.
And it wasn't just that, okay, we'll talk about it on Monday, and then you waited for Monday. You were like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah. So have you read Big Magic?
I
Elizabeth
haven't.
Gilbert. Okay, it's a beautiful book. When you get a chance, it is like a beautifully written book. But one of the things that she talks about in there is basically we all get tapped with different levels of inspiration at different times, And so she even in the book talks about how she met somebody who got the same inspiration for a book to write that she got, right? And it was like so wild and so vivid down to the details and the nitty gritty of each of that. But like inspiration comes to us in different forms. Michael Jackson would wake up in the middle of the night, call his manager, say, hey, I got an idea for a song, and if I don't write it, Prince is going to sing it. And it's like, this is how, like, I don't know how faithful you are, like what your faith is, but like, I really do believe in the power of whatever your version of you're going to call it. But like, I believe really strongly. And so when I get inspiration, I don't like put it down, it's more like that's there. How soon do I need to act on it? But this felt like this was something she needed right away. So I'm like, I might as well do this.
And you were like,
Yeah,
I'm taking it, I'm running with it.
Right now. And so she was the one who was like, hey, you need to teach other people, and started getting me individual clients to start with.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because she believed in what I was doing. And then I met my now husband. And so we started dating at some point while I'm working with her. And then, I don't know, a few months into it, he said, babe, I really think that you should be doing this, not that. Like you should be doing courses. I know you love the person you're working with, and I did, and we had the most amicable breakup ever. Like honestly, she is a sweetheart, and I fully stand behind her. He's like, you love her, and you want her to be successful with this, and you want to be a part of that journey, but your journey is somewhere else. And so it was really like seeing his vision for me.
You've got the support of people. So one, it was a friend or somebody who cared about you enough to be able to say like, hey, you could do this and you could help me with it. And then I'm going to get you more clients so that I believe in you enough to like help you found this growth. And then I also, for me, it's God. Like that's my,
thank you.
And I feel like nudges. And sometimes I'm like, I swear he nudges. And sometimes I'm like getting slapped across the head. Like, hey, I've been nudging you and you've been ignoring me. But one of the things that I have to say that I admire a lot about your story is the fact that whether or not it was the Tony Robbins event or whatever, but you just had the faith over the fear to step out. And then you're relating it to how you had to close a chapter first. So many of us, I was guilty of it. I had a side hustle for 10 years before I finally took that leap to be like, okay, I've got to close the corporate job chapter so that I can focus on this entrepreneurship journey. And I can't tell people enough, and they don't believe me, where I'm like, if you are trying to divide your energy, it makes it so much more difficult. It's not that it can't be done, but it makes it so much more difficult when you're still pouring time and energy into something that's not where you're supposed to be going, compared to when you can just close that door and then put all of your energy into the next step. And the doors that can open when you do that. I think that's phenomenal.
There's a story that Tony tells at UPW, and I've been a couple of times. That's the only reason I remember all the details. But basically when he's talking about decision, it's like there's two warring tribes and one lives on an island and the other one has boats, and they take the boats over to the island, and before they go in to try to take the island, they burn the boats.
There's
But
no
it's
option.
like, there's no option. We're not getting off this island. We're taking the island or we're dying, but like it's one or the other. But it's like anytime you have your foot in and out, you can go, it's just too easy to go, okay, that's not working, I can stop.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling everybody at home to quit their jobs, but it's like, when you know, and hopefully if you're going to make that decision, you have the right kind of support system, the right spouse, because like that can be a huge thing too. People around you to like really make it go. But when you know.
Well, and I think it's leaning into, like, I have heard different variations of, if you dreamed it, it's because it's meant for you. Like, there's a reason that we are given ideas, and there's a reason that we've got a purpose and a passion. And so you have to lean in. Now, of course, I'm not recommending that you quit and then have no food on the table, right, or like you're putting yourself in a financial place. But there's also something said about making a decision and then figuring out what that game plan looks like, and then putting a plan into place to get there, not kicking the bucket for 10 years like I did. So don't do that. And then I also I ask people, I'm like, are you living from a place of fear? Mm-hmm. So are you putting obstacles in the way because you're afraid? Or is it a myth or fact? Myth is all of these things. And then your facts, your reality could be that you need to work for an X amount of time more until you can get into a place to save up money or make a transition. But I encourage people to ask themselves first, is it truly an obstacle? Or is it just a delay? Or is it a fear? Like, are we creating these obstacles for ourselves because we're just afraid to make that shift and then the impact that could follow?
This is such a beautiful conversation because, it's either fear or it's love, right? Like they're not the same vibration. So you're going to be in one place or the other, and I try to do things that are scary. Like, not like I'm going bungee jumping. Like, I'm really afraid of heights. We're not going there. Like, that's not the kind of scary I'm looking at. But like, I try to do things that stretch me, and make me uncomfortable, and that are like, just a little bit on the other side, right? So like, even, I didn't speak for 6 years. Now I can speak in front of a stage of 350 people because I've done that. Could I do larger? Potentially. I just haven't done that yet. You know what I mean? But like, I decided to I've written a couple of books. I'm writing a third book, like, who am I to write a book? Whatever, I did it anyways, like, it's just like, I'll try to just kind of push myself into things that require a little more courage, just to keep that muscle. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
just keep
absolutely.
the muscle of doing something a little bit more difficult than what you'd be accustomed to, because like in that little bit of growth, you'll be surprised when I look back on the last 10 years and the things that I've done because of it, or because of just having that kind of, it's not really audacity. And it's not like I don't know that there are consequences, right? It's just kind of just, okay, whatever, I'm doing it, because of whatever that is about me. I think it's like, I'm not reasonable.
And I think honestly for entrepreneurship, you almost have to not be reasonable. Like, you have to be able to be okay with going out there and trying it. And then I think for me, it's been a shift in the mindset. Mm-hmm. And so I've had the opportunity of speaking to several different women, and one of the ones where you talked about this subject, and sometimes what holds people back is the fear of failure. Mm-hmm. And when you're in entrepreneurship, there is a lot of failure, but then it's how you decide to look at that. If you can frame it in, and I'm going to quote Emily Lampkin on her, it's now I know. She's like, well, I tried it. Now I know that didn't work. So now I'm going to try something different. Or now I know. And even if for me, sometimes I'm like, maybe we try something because we thought that's what we wanted to do. And then we get into it and we're like, I don't love this. Like, what was I thinking? And then instead of continuing down that path because you were like, well, I said I was going to do it, and then if I stop, then it's failure. No, it's just, well, now you don't want to do that. Change lanes and go in a different direction. Yes. So, okay, I want to take it back because you amaze me with some of your accomplishments and how humble you are, because you literally are talking about things that you've had so much success in. But you are looking at it, it's been part of my journey. I have just been able to get out there. I've made myself uncomfortable. I'm trying it, and now I'm doing it. So one of the things that you've accomplished doing, aside from being a multi-published author, you totally dropped that super quick. And she's got a third book coming. Is that what you said?
I'm working on it. This one's a little slower, so like it might be in a couple of years, but
that's okay.
It's loud, and the voice is loud in my head. You know what I'm saying? Like, the download is loud. It's just not fast.
You've also built a system, I think you said backed by over 500 research studies.
Yes.
And you've helped clients hit, and this is huge, a 97% course completion rate, which is wild, because what's the actual standard? Like, the industry norms is what?
3 to 5%.
Okay. The industry norm is a course completion rate of 3 to 5%, and
Correct.
you have managed to be able to get 97% course creation.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Thank you. I think it's just, I really do believe that a lot of it is the level of care that you put into it and the level of thoughtfulness that you put into it. And there's like two different camps, really, right? There's the marketer is like, oh, I'm going to sell my thing. And it doesn't really matter if they get the result, right? I don't think most people live there, but let's say there's a few. And then there's like all these really good people that really just want to help people. They're like, gosh, this changed my life, whatever this is. I really want this to be in the hands of everyone else, right? And instead of giving them the actual objective, what they usually end up doing is giving them the kitchen sink. So they might give them the entire IP for their entire customer success path, not realizing that they have like 6 or 7 offers in there, and instead they put it into one course. And I feel like that is usually the first problem that I see when I start, because I have a process for auditing and evaluating online courses. So when I go into already existing programs, that's usually what I see is like the kind of the good-natured, hey, this is what it took me to get to where I'm at, so I want to give you everything. And it's like, people don't need to know what you know. I'm a walking internet movie database. If you ever want to play 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, let's go, because I can. But nobody actually needs, we don't need this on the podcast. They don't want to know that, right? And when I say it like that, it sounds absurd. And I know like all of you that are listening, if you've ever taken an online course, you've probably experienced that in some way. There was one that I took back in like the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, and it was like supposed to be about LinkedIn. And the thing was like 8 hours long. And it really could have been a PDF. Like what I got out of the program, 8 hours. You know how much work that course creator put into this program to put an 8-hour course together? And it could have been a PDF. There were so many sidebars. In the South, we call it going off towards Aunt Nancy's house. But like, it's expression you were heading in the wrong way. And he did that over and over and over again. And then like, there was talks about Twitter and other things. I was like, what are you doing? Just like, give me what I need to do for my bio.
Yes.
Yes. People want to purchase something that will give them their objective. They don't really care about your course. They don't care about how much time you're giving them. Like people equate time with value. I'm giving them 10 hours. I'm giving them tons of value. I'm like, if you could give me a wrench that solved the same problem for the same amount of money, I would take the wrench. I want my life. I want my time with my family and my children and or my friends. Like I want to go to Disney World and watch your course, but I do want the objective met. And I think that's like that's like the major bump to get over for most people. And then after that, I mean, that's just something that like anybody can look at. Like, am I meeting their objective? Not my objective, their objective. Right?
That is right there. Like, and the value, like value is not tied into time.
No.
So that's where we have, and I've seen this mistake happen a lot of times with people that are trying to create an online course. It's like, okay, but it's only a PDF. Well, what are you trying to give them? Can you solve it in a PDF? And hi, I am the girl that just wants a PDF. Please do not make me sit there and listen to an 8-hour course so that at the end you could have given me the Cliff Notes version of the PDF. Like I want to pay for your knowledge that's going to help me get from A to C without having to go to B if I don't have to. Like if I need to, fine, but like shorten the learning curve for me. And I think that's a huge mistake that I see a lot of us making because we get caught up in our own interpretation of what the value is. So then if we're going to charge money, we feel like we have to give them the kitchen sink. And you're saying, no, stop giving the kitchen sink and just figure out what it is that can get them exactly what they need in the shortest amount of time.
It's amazing too, because like, doesn't that make sense? It makes sense to you. It makes sense to me. And like, if you talk to anybody, do you want to watch a really long course or would you rather, get something solved as fast as possible?
Yes.
Like, okay. I mean, I recommend courses stay between 4 to 6 hours.
Okay.
Like for me, that's the sweet spot. After that, I'm like, nobody really wants it. Please break it down smaller. Like you're doing too much. Like shorten the objective of what this course is. And you probably have more offers there where you can actually make greater profit and help them in different ways and help them feel successful along the journey as opposed to overwhelmed, right? So there's that too. But like, think about this too. Okay. Multiple choice tests. Do you like them? Why do we put them in adult courses? What for? No, but they're in there and I don't understand. I'm just like, because I have a statistician's brain also, right? Like, I mean, I've got a doctorate. I've done a lot of stats running. I look at things like, okay, if it's a multiple choice test, it needs to be normed reference to be reliable and valid. And I promise you that anybody that decided to create an online course in their kitchen does not know what that process looks like,
Right.
and is more than likely not doing it. Like, there's only a very small percent of the population that could even figure out to do that. And it would take a lot of people taking that test in order to figure it out. Like, the sample size has got to be representative of the population. So it just means that lots and lots of people would have to take that test for you to make sure that it's valid and reliable, which you didn't do, but you're giving it to me and I don't understand why I'm jumping through a hoop. That's like the main thing. And no adults know why they're jumping through a hoop. You know what I mean? Unless it's something like where it's required, there are online programs where it's like a continuing education credit where you have to do something like that. But even then, most people, when they're creating tests, it's like they're trying to get you to recall information. People don't need to recall information anymore. That's what Google and ChatGPT are for. You don't need to test my memory. I'm an elephant, but you don't need to test my memory.
This is where I laugh because logically, when I'm watching somebody else do it, I know. Of course, I want it to be shorter and condensed and all that stuff. But I'll tell you what, when I went to build my own online course,
yes,
that was something that I struggled with consistently. And still to this day, I'm like, did I provide enough value? Was that really worth the money? Like, yes, it is. But then at the same time, I immediately go, but was it? So it's funny because we can logically have this conversation.
Yeah.
My brain is like fully in to check going, yeah, of course, that makes 100% sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you're going to do it yourself, though. So it's having to figure out that way then to separate yourself from it and be like, okay, take your emotion out of it.
Right.
Take your own mindset. Like that's where we start to question ourselves and our own value. And then we start to pour that in where it's like, no. Carrie's like, no, just stop. Just take a step back.
Yes.
And realize this is the piece that you're also touching on that I think some maybe missed. Your information is valid. They may need it, but it's not in one course. Maybe it's you start with the one and then you roll them into the next one and then you roll them into another one. So you can provide all that value, but don't cut yourself short on what you could be earning, and also increase your completion rates because you're not overwhelming your people. They can do one bite size at a time.
Yeah, that totally changes perspectives in terms of like what your customer success path looks like, what your monetization strategies look like just in that. But just to touch back too, like you never know what it is until you get in front of people, right? That's how I have 2 degrees in theater. The first 2, play wasn't the play until the audience was there. And it's the same thing with an online course too, right? Like the people are in, they're now a part of it, right? And so I think there's like room to ask for them. Like, what would you have liked to have seen different? What would you like to add? In education, we used to do like 2 stars and a delta. So 2 things you liked and 1 thing you would like to see different.
Okay.
And that helps us like get the feedback of whether or not they're actually getting the material, right? And like, do they have everything? There's research that says that too much cognitive dissonance and people can't learn. And then there's research that says that not enough cognitive dissonance and people can't learn. And that can get a little confusing. But first, cognitive dissonance here in education is just really like, is your brain too itchy? Like, is it too confusing?
Okay.
There's a lot of ways to think about it in social environments, but just in the terms of like, is there too much? Is it too overwhelming? Or is it too easy? And the too easy we can put aside for something else. But the too overwhelming, it's kind of like going up a staircase, right? So like if you went up a staircase, you go 1 stair to the next, to the next, to the next, you can make it, you can clear it. That makes sense, right? But if I took out a stair, a little more difficult. If I take out 2 stairs, even more. Right. And so like 3 stairs, I need a hand. But so when we're creating lessons, it's more about like the logical sequential steps. Does this make sense? Is this the next thing? Right. And the next thing is the next lesson and the next lesson after that. And is this actually completing the build, or do we leave any pieces out? And it's really hard to read the label from inside the jar. So if you are a course creator and you're sitting there and you're like, I think I have it, I don't know, and you film it and you put it in a package and you're still not sure, just asking them. It's so like an open-ended question, or even doing a Likert scale on a scale from 1 to 10. How complete do you feel on learning this material? Like, do you feel like you have it, or or is there some area where you're still a little itchy around it?
As we get caught up in this world of like wanting it to be done and wanting it to be perfect and pouring all that in, like I say the same thing about branding. Like, let's start where you are now, and it's going to evolve. Like, you're not married to it. So if in 3 months or 6 months, there's another piece that we want to make or shift or whatever, and you're going, well, you just replace it or you just add to it and it's okay. Like, of course it's okay.
And think about the kind of trust that creates on the other end. Let's say Susie's in your course and she said, yeah, I just didn't get this one part. It was still sticky for me. Okay, I go ahead, or you go ahead, you shoot a video, you go ahead and put that in the course and then go, hey, Susie, I created this extra lesson, or I replaced this lesson with this because of your notes. If you could go ahead and give it a watch now and let me know, are you understanding it based on everything I just did? Does this clear it up for you? How do you think Susie's going to feel knowing that you're that kind of person?
So you're sharing your stories with like, you just replaced the course. And then now the side effect of that is you increase the value. You provided so much more to your students. And then now that's building a trust factor. The next time you go to release something, they're going to be like, I'm in. If I communicate with you that something just doesn't make sense, you're going to be willing to come back and address it and help me get it. Like all of that it all just sounds so easy.
Well, I thank you for saying that. Like, I was inside of a course on social media management back when I first started. I was trying to learn all of the internet marketing, everything's right. I was in this course and she said I needed to create a website. I was like, okay. So I was following the instructions, but the instructions weren't working because the course hadn't been updated when WordPress had updated a new release, right? And so I let the course creator know, hey, this doesn't work. And she literally said, hey, we just don't have time to update every time there's a technical update. And so like just thinking about it in those terms, I mean, that one is like a little more obviously like, what? But you don't want to be that guy, like even when it comes to anything, right? Like, so if you're not teaching something as complete as it needs to be for the purpose of the objective of the course, not for them to become you, but just the objective of the course, then go ahead and add more, right? Or fix it.
Well, and so you touched about websites and how you had to do this for your business. So I kind of want to shift into branding for a second. You actually said that your first brand photo shoot completely shifted how you saw yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was everything. So first of all, my husband was a photographer at the time. Now he just does it by art. Like he's a multimedia designer and has his, when you talk about rabbit holes, he said to me, I don't go down rabbit holes. I live down rabbit holes. I come up to see you. And almost all of the ones that he's in are in the creative fields. So that says a lot, right? Well, he saw the website, first of all. I tried to pretend like I didn't have one. I showed him. He was like, this is atrocious. Everything was bad, right? And so he decided he's going to take me and like make something out of me. He's trying to like tell me to like, leave my former partner and start on my own and that kind of thing. So he's like, okay, let me just brand you. He does this photo shoot with me and it's like in a real live photo studio with all of the lights and the fans. It was the full experience and getting my makeup done and my hair done and whatever. And I was like, oh, this is fun. But it wasn't just the fun part. It was looking at the photos afterwards. And I'm like, who is she? Because that didn't feel like me, but that felt like a better version of me. And it's almost like if you've ever heard any of the woo-woo girls on all the social media channels, they're always talking about when you're manifesting, it's not about the feeling of it coming to you necessarily. It's also about becoming the person that thing comes to.
Yes.
Right. And so I felt like, okay, I now need to walk into her. It altered my entire reality. It altered how I saw myself. I didn't even recognize myself as a brand prior to this. I'm like, okay. And then I became that. And it entirely shifted how everyone else viewed me as well, in terms of like feedback I was getting and engagement. You can tell like, oh gosh, if you change your profile photo and it was just you and your kids and like, hey, and all of a sudden you have a branded shoot, people interact with you completely differently. And so it was like all of a sudden I was a professional, not like I haven't had a doctorate for 2 years, but like all of a sudden I was a professional at that point,
I can relate. So I was a professional photographer for 10 years before I actually invested in my own professional brand photos.
Right.
The number of comments I got, and then everyone going, oh, you're a photographer? I didn't know. I was like, what do you mean you didn't know? What are you talking about? You've been commenting on the same platform that you just saw this picture. You've been commenting on my photos and my work and all that stuff. And I had some people tell me, I didn't realize it was you. I liked the photo because the work was beautiful, but then it just gave me a whole different stigma. People started taking me more seriously. And so this is where I've been calling it the side effect of brand photos, where brand photos have a place for your marketing. And I love that your husband looked at your website and was like, okay, the direction was this needs photos of you. We need to share your story in a way that puts you in the position of not who you were becoming. You were already her. You just didn't realize it. And you didn't have the confidence yet to step into that version of yourself, because a brand photo shoot doesn't change who you are. You don't get a doctorate by just going to a brand photo shoot. You don't have all of your life experiences just from the brand photo shoot. The brand photo shoot allows us to visually tell that story of who you are, and we pull it out of you so that you can then have the confidence to go out there and share your story with the world, whereas you may not have with the selfies on your phone. It's not the same as pulling professional photos from this photo shoot that you did. And it's amazing because, you've got a beautiful story with it being your husband, but find somebody that can give you that confidence and that power and make it fun. Because when you're having fun, the music, the dancing, the energy, we're just different. Guys, brand photo shoots do not have to be like the yearbook photos. You don't go stand on an X and smile in some awkward pose. And then we don't just flash the camera and say, okay, you're done, while you're in like this awkward mid like blink grin. Like that's not what photo shoots are supposed to be. It's being able to make you feel like $1,000,000 and pull out this side of you so that you have the confidence to show up in the world. But how did that impact your business?
Just complete 180. So this is like the end of 2014 when he does the photo shoot. It's like December, right?
Okay.
And so I think I started posting or sharing like 2015. The end of 2016, I was in an article for the Huffington Post, Must Follow Women Entrepreneurs for 2017. 2018, I was on the best-selling author list on Amazon for 5 weeks in the marketing category, which is like Amazon, in order to get the bestseller status, you have to be a bestseller for 20 minutes. So most of the time, like if you see a bestseller, like they've been, but like for how long, to be 5 weeks in the marketing category is absolutely huge. And it was all because of actually support from others. I just had a lot of like human capital at that point. I developed a lot of relationships. I introduced a lot of people. I was always like a, what can I do for you kind of a person? How can I support you? Who can I connect you with? I had been doing that since the brand photo shoot, and people started talking to me more. And then I started doing that. And then all of a sudden, when I goes to launch, all of these people that I had cared about me and shared out about my book.
Amazing.
And so, so it's just like, I know that it traces back to that, because I was no longer operating, in a hidden place.
What do you think is like the most important piece of personal branding, especially for someone who's in a leadership or expert role? How do you help them shift that mindset?
It kind of goes back to that Marianne Williamson quote, like the who are you not to? Like, it's just like, you were put here, you were given this gift for a reason. Your reason is not to play small. You can't hide behind things. It's like, if you have it and you have it in your heart and you have any faith behind that, it's like, do you think God would have given you that gift if he just meant for it to die with you? Or do you think that you have it in order to impact others? Because I don't think any of us were put here with any kind of gifts that we were meant to like just keep for ourselves. Like, how many lives get changed because of you, right? And it's not like an ego thing. It's not for us to know. It's like, I'm here to do good work. That's what I'm here for, right? And I believe that for each and every one of us. So it's like, if you're hiding, like, you really got to question your faith. Like, that's the part.
Yes. You were given a gift for a reason. I love how you said that. You were given a gift for a reason. And then I like to tell people too, I'm like, someone out there is waiting. Someone out there is waiting for your version. Brand photography, I feel like it's like real estate agents. Like, you put out a post on one of the social media platforms looking for a photographer. And I feel like everyone and their brother knows somebody, but there's only one of you. And so there's a reason that you were given that gift. And there's enough business in this world for all of us. And so for me, I'm like, somebody out there is waiting for your version of what you have to share and the way that you can share it so that you can impact their life. And you and I can say the exact same thing, but someone's going to hear it from you differently, that was meant to hear it from you, versus someone may hear me say it and just something in my inflection, or maybe the way that I smile, or maybe that's something that they know about my history, it'll align and relate better so I can impact that person a little different. So
there are plenty of people that do learning design. I could say I'm in competition with them. I'm not. I'm only in competition with me.
Yes.
Like, this is the impact I'm creating, is how much I'm willing to get uncomfortable, step out from behind my desk, show up for things. I'm an introvert. I'd rather be in bed. Like,
You don't come across as an introvert at all.
I like people a lot. So that's the part. It's just, I get my energy from being alone. But I like people.
Yeah.
But like, it's how you do life and how you move through it, and just the willingness to show up is everything.
Stop hiding in fear. And I think that's the piece. Like, you are enough exactly how you are for somebody out there that is waiting. And then you just improve, and like, you work through it. And I think this is where I'm like, we all get to evolve. And then I have a heart of service. So my business has evolved really from either wanting to serve, like, and I sit here and I'm like, okay, what is it let me be the person you designed me to be. And how can I impact that? But I go through some different questions. I'm like, okay, can I be present for my children the way that I would like to in this phase of my life? And then how am I impacting the women that I work with or the people that I work with? I'm very passionate about my women. And I think it's because they tend to want to hide the most. And then the way that I've been able to see their confidence shift. And then I truly become my client's biggest cheerleader. And then talking about collaboration over competition, I love, like, my business bestie is a brand photographer in Denver. And at least I'm like, you guys, we're not in competition. And I love to have lunch with a brand photographer that's here in the same area that I'm in. And if I can give her tips and help pull her along, I'm like, I'm either going to lift as I climb, or if you're ahead of me, I'm pushing you. Just go. And then if you remember, reach back and lift me up as you climb too, because we have so much ability to do that. Looking ahead,
yes,
I know that there's so much that's coming and so much changing. I want to touch on AI for a second, because I feel like AI is changing how we work, how we teach, how we lead. What role do you think that intentional, human-centered branding is going to play in staying relevant and creating real impact?
First of all, AI can't start from nothing. So you need, even if you were going that way, you would need something to give it in the first place, right? So like even that, you still need it. But aside from that, like I feel like you just asked me if, do I like to listen to records? That's what I heard. Like, I love to listen to records. Do I want to pull out a Polaroid camera? I'd love to pull out a Polaroid camera. There's something about even just like turning the radio off or turning the cell phone off and like going and standing in the woods. I feel like connection is going to be the most valuable commodity as we move forward. The more things that we actually create that are human natured and human focused, I think that those are going to be the most valuable. Because how much do you value going to McDonald's? And I'm not bashing McDonald's in this. I love a good fillet of fish. Don't knock me on it. But it's just like, but do you value the experience of going to McDonald's?
Yes, it's a fast food option. You expect it to be quick and you don't have a high level of expectation. You know the fries are going to be good, and like that's it.
Like to me, like a real culinary experience over McDonald's any day of the week and twice on Sundays. Like I don't even go to regular chain restaurants.
Right.
You know, like you can't get me into a Chili's or an Olive Garden because there's too many local options that are just going to be like 1,000 times better than that. Like, you know, it has to be a real good reason we're going to Chili's, but I think that that's what it is. People are going to still really want to feel something. I feel like right now there's like, speed and ease and trust. I use AI, not in the way you might think, more for like meal planning and counseling. When it comes to like long range, where are we going to end up going? I think there's going to be a premium on the human collaboration and the human connection piece. And a lot of that is going to be like, are you real? Like, what's behind there?
I agree 100%, because that's where authenticity and I really see the piece come in, where it's like, we are craving connection. We're in this generation now where everyone is constantly on their phones looking to relate to something. But then when you can pull people back in and they can feel like they know you and they want to work with you, like that's a key. And it's really hard to do that without showing who you are.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we lose sight of that know, like, and trust factor. You know, people like to do business with those that they know, like, and trust. How are you going to get them to know, like, and trust you if you don't show who you are? But I want to kind of circle back really quick before we wrap up on creating a course. So if someone has been listening and they're thinking, I want to make an impact, I want to create something transformational, but maybe I don't really know where to start, or I hear you, what's one piece of advice that you would give them as far as like, this is where I would start with your idea?
Yeah, I think the first part is to make sure that you could actually teach that, because it's interesting. It's especially happening more and more when I hear people that are bouncing ideas off of AI, right? Because now it's like, okay, we can just bounce some ideas here and see what we get. And then it's like AI gave you the list of what should go in your modules. And you're like, oh yeah, that should go in. I should do that. And I coach in a couple of communities. And so I hear things from sometimes and I'm like, wait, but can you teach that? Do you know that? And is that actually your process? You know, and I think it's just really down to staying true to what you actually know first, you know, what is actually the process that gets them the objective, right? So if you don't know it, don't teach it. Just because you can look it up, you can do a book report too, but nobody wants to listen to those. They want to know what's right? These things that make sense.
100%. No, and it sounds like that concept sounds so simple, but I want to take it back to something you said earlier in the show. Are you able to teach it in a way that you can tell them to take one step at a time? because sometimes it becomes second nature to us, but I may have learned something and figured out how to do it. But then when I go back to teach it, I'm like, oh man, how did you get from step 2 to step 3? I can get you from step 1 to step 4, but if I can't do each individual step, how difficult am I making it? And then I liked it like one little piece. So she's saying you have to really know if you can teach it. And then I challenge you to ask yourself, what is it that you know that's second nature to you that you think is so easy because it is your zone of genius? Can you share that to somebody else who may not be in your world? And then them go, like I've done to Dr. Carrie numerous times today, going, okay, you said, of course, or but I'm like, no, I didn't. And I've had the same experience when I've been talking to people about branding, where there's been something that to me, I'm like, of course, your colors and your fonts and your photos need to be the same everywhere you look for consistency. And people are like, oh, what? I didn't really realize that was, a thing. And I'm like, yes, branding is so much more than logos and colors and a font. And people look at me like, but I've got my branding done. And then I look, I'm like, where's your face? I don't see you anywhere in anything. Where's your branding? And so we can be speaking the same language. To me, it's become second nature because this is what I do and this is what I focus on and this is what I excel at. And I got so many tidbits today from Dr. Carrie that I'm going to look back and be like, okay, what do I need to go back and tweak? I love all of that. Thank you so much for sharing. So if they've been listening and they're like, I have this idea or I already have this course, but I would love to have a perspective from an expert like you that is getting 97% completion rate. That is huge. Where can they find you? How can they reach out to connect?
Yes, the best place is actually, for me, LinkedIn or Instagram at Dr. Carrie Rose or our website of-course.us, like United States.
Love it. If you have been listening and you would love to get additional feedback, she gave lots of gold nuggets today on what you can do if you're doing it yourself. But she has a proven track record of being able to help people's courses be very, very successful. And if you want that, please reach out, Dr. Carrie Rose on LinkedIn or Instagram, or you can do, of course, I'm going to mess it up. We're going to look in the show notes so that we don't get you wrong. Just play back about 20 seconds and she'll spell it out for you one more time. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Carrie. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Branded Impact Podcast. If today's episode sparked something in you, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who's ready to unlock their rebrand era. And if you're ready for a brand that's rooted in authenticity and built for impact, one that truly reflects your story, your energy, and your evolution, let's connect. Head to brandingbyjoe.com or DM me on Instagram at brandingbyjoe. Thanks for hanging out. Now get out there, show up with purpose, and make your branded impact. I'll see you next week.